What, no comment, Jeff?
It's your meeting, John, but I would have begun at 8:30.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the Planning and Stakeholder Relations Committee meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is a roll call. So committee members, would you like to identify yourself?
Sure. Stephanie Turman.
Ann O'Gora.
So I don't think Ali Doyle is on. Other board members like to identify themselves?
Jeff Letwin?
Michelle
And
Sumianek.
Hi, John. Jerry DeLon.
Hi, Jerry. All right, thank you much. The second item on the agenda is the approval of the October 20th meeting minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing no corrections, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. The first, on the agenda, we have presentation of the draft Title VI analysis for proposed BRT major service changes. And I guess Amy and Ellie, you're on the call.
Yes, we are. Good morning. Thank you, committee members. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amy Silverman. I'm the Director of Planning and Service Development here at PRT. I and Ellie Newman, our Section Manager of Service Development, are going to kick back and forth these slides a little bit this morning and talk about service for the downtown uptown Oakland BRT project. So we included an image here from yesterday's event. So for those who were there or for those who haven't heard yet, yesterday the project formally had a groundbreaking here in downtown. So that was a really exciting moment, and we're continuing that momentum for this project this week by beginning to discuss service for the project as we move into 2023 today. So we are going to be talking through this morning about the service, reminding folks of what the service plan for the project is, going over Title VI, which is a formal federal legal requirement for us to look at for the service for this project, and then to talk about next steps and timelines. With that, so what have we been doing? It's been a while since we talked about service for the downtown uptown Oakland BRT project. I'll just refer to it as the BRT project from here on out. So I wanted to refresh everybody of what has happened with service on this project since it's been over a number of years. And of course, we had a pandemic in the middle of that as well. So starting in 2017, we came out publicly to start looking at different service options for this project. We had identified an alignment of 5th and 4th Avenues through our Oakland, uptown, and downtown neighborhoods, and then needed to talk about what services would use these amenities and this infrastructure through the corridor. So we selected something called the locally preferred alternative at that time. And at that time, there were 3 bus routes proposed to be part of that project and 6 bus routes that were proposed to short turn or end early in Oakland and not come all the way into uptown and downtown anymore. And then throughout the remainder of that year, we continued moving into beginning to select station locations for that service, and then started hearing later in the year from Mon Valley residents that they were concerned about having to transfer onto one of these 3 routes, either in Squirrel Hill neighborhoods, Greenfield neighborhood, or the Oakland neighborhood in order to get all the way to downtown. So in 2018, we undertook a large public process to revisit the locally preferred alternative and selected a new service plan, which at the time we called or referred to the frequency preservation plan, which now includes 5 bus routes that will be part of the BRT project. And we have not changed anything with the service plan since that time, so that has continued to carry us through to where we are now. So of course, we moved through 2020 and 2021, continuing the design and the engineering work around the project and continuing to work towards funding the project. And then this summer, we came back with some infrastructure updates on the scope of the project, which has changed slightly. So for those who may be not familiar with those scope changes, I'll just refresh everyone here. That is that the branch infrastructure, we had 2 branches to the project that we're going to move out into the Highland Park and Squirrel Hill neighborhoods. We have proposed to move that branch infrastructure to a future phase of this program, but the service proposal did not change for those 5 bus routes. The downtown loop will be the first construction phase of the project, with the Uptown and Oakland components of the project happening in a second phase of construction. The electrification of the bus fleet for the project is moved to a parallel project, so still happening on a similar timeline, just not formally part of this project. And then we also have the smart signals project with traffic signals in this corridor moved to a parallel project that will begin immediately after the PRT construction concludes. So that was the update from the summer, just to make sure everyone is clear on where we're at now. So Ellie Newman's going to come up and talk about Title VI and what Title VI is and where we're at in the process for analyzing the proposed service changes for you today.
Right, thank you, Amy, and good morning, everyone. My name is Ellie Newman. I'm the section manager of service development at PRT. And I'm going to chat a little bit through what these service changes are and our Title VI analysis and why we propose to implement those changes now. So the PRT project, as Amy mentioned, involves short-turning some of our routes that currently come from Oakland all the way into downtown. We're proposing short-turning them in Oakland. So why would we do that now before the construction is actually complete? The reason is reliability. We feel that with the closures, the construction, the detours that are going to be happening downtown, it doesn't make sense to have extra buses caught up in that. It makes more sense for us to at least take some of them out of downtown, get them out of that traffic, and be able to preserve reliability for our riders that still use the local portion of those routes. The other reason is our continued, our continued operator shortage. So it's no secret that we've been struggling, as every other transit agency has, with a shortage of operators. That means that we have to cancel more of our trips than we would like to. If we reduce some of our downtown service now, we'd be able to put that service back towards improving reliability and trying to meet our goal of only 1% or less of trips canceled every day. So Title VI basically is our program. We're required to do this through the federal government to make sure if we're making any major change to a route, be it an extension, a reduction, or a reduction in frequency, we need to make sure that we're not having an inequitable impact on our more vulnerable communities. So what we do here is we look at the demographics of the area that the route serves. We look at the income levels, we look at the minority race levels of each community, and we determine if this area has a higher than average population of low-income or minority persons. If it does, and we're going to be doing a negative change, then we would need to look at some kind of mitigation to make sure that we're not having an overall negative impact on our communities. So here's a map of what our service changes are proposed to be. So this affects the 61 ABCD and the 71 ABCD, as well as the P3. The proposed BRT routes would be the 61 ABC and the 71B. Those routes would still continue downtown. They would do a different loop downtown, similar to what they do now, but more dedicated space, more reliable. And then they would continue on their regular route. The routes that would become locals are the 61D, the 71A, C, and D. These routes would short turn in Oakland. They would then continue back out. So they'd still benefit from BRT infrastructure in Oakland. The other service change affects the P3, so this one's a bit different. The P3 is the East Busway route. Apparently it goes all the way to Swissvale on the outer end. We're proposing that we only take it as far as Wilkinsburg, so we take it a little bit closer to the city, but then we extend it into downtown. So right now it looks around in Oakland. We're proposing that we take it all the way into downtown to provide some extra service back from that area. The other piece of this is this route is currently a weekday only, so we're proposing that we extend the service to Saturday and Sunday to provide some extra weekend service that provides extra access to jobs and life. So this slide just details that in words if anyone wants to reference this documents. So getting into the Title VI findings themselves. So we did find that for the proposed short turning that would skip out parts of uptown and downtown, we did find that there would be a potential negative impact for low-income communities. So this area does have a higher proportion of low-income residents. So we did find that this would be an adverse effect and a negative change. Of course, this area would still benefit from the PRT changes themselves, which would be bus lanes, better amenities, better reliability. On the P3 side, the reduction to Wilkinsburg we found has a potential negative impact to the minority population. So this area has a higher than average minority population compared to our service area. And because this would be a service reduction, that is a negative impact. The extension, however, has the opposite effect. So this would be the extension to downtown would impact the low income community there. This would be a positive change because this would be additional service. And of course, the addition of weekend service. We're looking at a span of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., which this route currently has no hours. So that would obviously be a positive change. So since we did find some negative impacts, we need to come up with a list of mitigations of how we would help to lessen the negative impact of these changes. So number one, obviously, would be the BRT improvements themselves. That means more reliability, better infrastructure, having that dedicated lanes, and better station amenities to help our passengers access our system. We also plan to do direct mitigation of anywhere that someone currently has a one-seat ride from somewhere in our service area to downtown. We're looking at adding some trips to make sure they can still do that. So I'll go into that in the next slide. Thirdly, we want to restock our extra board. So that is our pool of operators that's available kind of on call in case of any service, last minute service cancellations. These operators can step in and take on that trip. So we're hoping that if we make this change now, that will free up some operators that we can put towards preserving all the rest of our service. We would then look at adding trips back that we've cut in the last 2 years. So we have done some service reductions here and there as our operator shortages have kind of forced us to. So the first priority would be changes that have had a Title VI finding for low-income persons to kind of mitigate that piece of the finding. So that would be routes 58 and P7 would be higher on the priority list to have service put back. Following that, if we still have additional hours, we would put trips back on other routes where we had some minor changes, minor reductions. For making this decision, we would look at what is the current passengers per hour metric. So where are the routes performing well that deserve some extra service, and also look at the equity score and try to focus on communities that have a higher reliance on transit. With any remaining hours, we would then put towards any new service or extensions. We have kind of a running wish list of things that we'd like to do that we've heard from the community that would be good and things that we've evaluated. So that would kind of be the prioritized list for any remaining hours. So I mentioned that we were looking at some minor changes to preserve some downtown trips. So that's what this slide is about. So there are a couple of areas where we currently have some riders that are using the 71 A, C, or D for a one-seat ride to downtown. The first area that has the most riders is Center Avenue between Craig and Aiken in the Shadyside area. There's almost 70 weekday riders on average that are using the 71 C or AC, for one seat ride. So we're proposing to add trips to Route 82 that would provide another option for them and help them at least have a bit more frequency. Similarly, on the 71A, there's a part of Medley Avenue between Center and Bryant that's going to be losing a direct trip to downtown. We're proposing adding trips to the 87s, providing that option there. And then finally, we did find there were a few riders in Hamilton Avenue and Homewood between Washington and Wood that were using the 71Z for a 1C ride to downtown. We looked at this and we actually found that there's many other routes that currently provide downtown service within a 5-minute walk. Many of these routes would actually be a lot faster, like any of the Ps are going to be faster than a local route as far as somebody going directly downtown. And those are all relatively quick. I want to stress too that all of these riders can still get to downtown using their local route. They would just need to transfer in Oakland. And as long as they're not using cash to pay for their ride, if they're using a Connect card or a ticket, that transfer. Now I'll hand it back to Amy for next steps.
Great, thank you, Amy. All right, so where are we going from here? What we are proposing today, and we'll be asking the board for authorization for today, or today moving into next week's board meeting, is to enter into a public comment period with a public hearing, which is part of our Title VI requirements and major service change requirements for the service changes that Ellie detailed for you today. So that is for the 61D, the 71A, the 71C, the 71D, and the P3. And we're proposing that this public comment period be about a 48-day public comment period beginning on December 15th and moving through February 1st. And then also through the winter, moving into awarding of that first construction contract for the downtown components of the project. And then as we enter the end of the public comment period, we will be coming back to the board in February with a summary of what we've heard during the public comment period, as well as any updates that are needed to be made to the Title VI report in order to authorize those major service changes and authorize the final Title VI report. Moving into the spring and summer of next year, looking to begin the construction of that downtown loop, phase 1 of the project, and then moving into the construction bid process for the uptown and Oakland phases, the second phase of construction. Finalizing those proposed service changes, and when I say finalize, that's more getting those into the schedules, getting everything worked into a schedule and into a schedule hit, which is our service change process, and then implementing those service changes. So just a bit of a detail on that implementation. We don't know yet what month in 2023 we're proposing these service changes. We're saying as early as late spring. So in about 6 or 7 months is the earliest we would be looking to do this. However, there are a lot of pieces that still need to fall into place over the coming months in order to allow us to figure out exactly when that is. So we're hoping by the February board meeting that we can give you a month, but that will really depend on the construction contract and the detail of that construction process in terms of when it makes the most sense for us to pull back some of those downtown services and be able to redeploy those hours elsewhere into our system, as Ellie outlined. I will also note that the plan for 2023 is just for the 4 routes that have a reduction in service from downtown. So that's the 61D and the 71A, C, and D. That is not the service changes for the P3, because the P3 actually has an addition of hours both through the weekend service and coming into downtown. And the main reason for us wanting to pull back on some of these services right now is to save on those hours while we're under construction, while we're under detours and other, slow operations moving through uptown and downtown. That does not make sense for us to make those P3 changes at the same time. So we're proposing to do the P3 changes closer to the completion of construction for the PRT project. So we don't know exactly when that will be yet, but likely sometime in 2024 or beyond. So the proposal for today is really just moving us through those four routes and not the P3. Continuing out through the remainder of next year, moving to award the phase 2 of the construction contract, and then in 2024, beginning construction of the uptown and Oakland components. So along with the public comment period that we are requesting that the board authorize would be an informational session for the public, in addition to the content that we're providing today, which will be recorded and placed on our website. We will have another informational session, which will have similar detail as to we're providing today for folks to hear more about these detailed changes. We're proposing that that informational session be on Tuesday, January 10th, 2023. From 6 to 7 p.m. It will be online only, and folks will be able to ask us clarifying questions about these proposed changes. It will not be a place for providing formal public comment. So for members of the public who wish to provide us with their comments, that will be reserved for the hearing, but this is an opportunity to hear more detail about the service and ask questions about the service. And then we would be proposing 3 sessions of a public hearing, all in one day on January 18th of 2023. There will be 2 sessions that will be both in person and online, and 1 session which will be online only. So the proposal for the in-person and online sessions are from 10 to noon and from 2 to 4 on January 18th, and then an evening session which will be online only from 6 to 8 p.m. All of the information will be available on our website at the time at which our board authorizes us to move into this public comment period. We'll have all of the registration information available when that time comes. So moving into a resolution for the committee today is an authorization for the board to proceed to public comment period for these VRT major service changes. That proposal would initiate or kick off a 3-week advertising period, which we are required by our own policies for major service changes to provide before entering the public comment period. So that would give us that 3-week period, and then beginning on December 15th, would move into that 48-day public comment period, where folks will be able to call a phone number and leave a voicemail, go to our website and fill out a comment form, call customer service and ask customer service to lead them through either of those processes. And then of course come to the public hearings if that's the, or you can write us a letter as well, old school paper style, or come to the public hearings in January and provide us your comments that way. So many ways for the public to give us their comments and their thoughts on these service changes. So this resolution would authorize us to proceed into that public comment period. And with that, I would respectfully request that the committee consider bringing this resolution before the full board.
Hold on 1 second. First of all, thank you and Ellie for your presentation. Are there, first of all, are there any questions on the presentation by committee members? Additional board members, any comments? Any questions?
John, it's Michelle. I thought it was very thorough because I was compiling a couple questions, and I think Ellie and Amy have given us some terrific information organized with the dates of things. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Any stakeholder in the room questions of Amy or Ellie? Okay, seeing no questions, let's move to the resolution. So you're making the resolution to move to the full board, Amy.
That is correct. So authorize the board to move into public comment period and formal public hearing for the BRT major service changes.
Okay, do I have a
So moved.
do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Thank you again, Amy and Ellie, for a great presentation.
Very good.
Absolutely. I'll just also note for anyone who wants more information, the map that we shared on the slides today is available on the VRT on the rideprt.org / VRT, as well as the Title VI draft document as well will also be placed on our website along with today's presentation, which is recorded.
Okay, thanks again. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Then meeting stands in adjournment, and next up is the Finance Committee, right? Right, Ann?
We'll get started in just a minute.
Okay.
Okay, I'll call to order the Finance Committee meeting for November 10th, 2022. Our first item of business is a roll call of our members. Board Member Liptak,
Here.
Representative Davis, Board Member Delon.
Good morning.
All right, any other board members present, please identify yourselves.
Jeff Letwin,
John Pegg,
Stephanie Terman.
Lori
Michelle Smee.
Miskorsky.
First agenda item is approval of minutes of the October 20th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting. Do I have any revisions to the minutes? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Okay, our only agenda item today is a review of the October 2022 financial statements. Pete.
Good morning, Madam Chair and other board members. So reviewing the month of October financial results, our total operating income was below budget by $228,360. Passenger revenues were $174,797 below budget, primarily due to lower monthly pass sale. Our access shared ride revenue was $218,318 below budget for the month. However, our interest income was almost $170,000 above budget, which offset a portion of the lower passenger revenue shortfall. Total operating income for the fiscal year is $1.7 million below budget. That's primarily due to lower monthly, annual, and stored value revenue. Also, our access shared ride revenue is $527,260 below budget. Fortunately, our total operating expenses continue to be below budget. Total expense for the month of October was $1.6 million below budget. Our total salary and wages were $1.46 million below budget due to both vacant positions, and we also have a budgeted HTU wage increase, which is being finalized. Total operating expenses for the fiscal year continue to be below budget by $17.6 million, with every expense category under budget. Salary and wages, employee benefits, and purchase services were $5.4 million, $3.1 million, and $3.4 million below budget, respectively. Our subsidy for the month was $938,291 below budget, and that's primarily due to lower state operating assistance for the month. However, our total subsidy for the year is $126,480 above budget. Looking at a year-over-year perspective, our total operating income is $1.7 million higher than last fiscal year. So even though we are below budget, we're still higher year over year. Total passenger revenue is $1.1 million higher than last fiscal year. And interest income is almost slightly over $500,000 higher than last fiscal year due to the higher interest rate environment. Total expense is $5.4 million higher than last fiscal year. We have an increase in materials and supplies due to higher diesel fuel expense. Our materials expense is also higher than last fiscal year, as well as the reconditioned unit expense, which is related to light rail vehicles. Other expense is $1.7 million higher than last fiscal year, and that's due to a year-over-year increase in software licensing, as well as in computer equipment. Our access expense is approximately $1 million higher than last fiscal year. From a subsidy perspective, we're $1.7 million higher than last fiscal year due to three factors: state operating assistance, which the authority is budgeted to receive more than last fiscal year, cost of contracting, and our vehicle overhaul program receipts. So looking at the operating reserves, we began the month of October with $151.9 million in operating reserves. We had cash inflows of $29.7 million. And that 18 million of that came from a state operating assistance payment. We had cash outflows of $45.2 million related to salary and wages, benefits, materials and supplies, and professional services. So we ended the month with $136.4 million in operating reserves. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions from committee members? Any from other board members? Thank you.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair.
That was our only agenda item, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Second, all right, meeting
Second.
adjourned. Release something. No meeting in December? Oh, sorry, no meeting in December. Okay, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. We're ready for the Performance Oversight Committee meeting on 9:02 a.m. First item is going to be roll call. So I will call the members of the committee first. Representative Magorski,
Present.
Representative Davis. And moving on, please, for our board members that are present with us, please state your name for the record.
Jeff Letwin.
John Tagg.
Jen Liptak.
Very good, thank you. Our next item of bids then is approval of minutes for our October 20th meeting of the Performance Oversight. Do we have any corrections or additions to our meeting minutes? Hearing none, Representative Magorski, could I have a motion to approve?
Yes, so moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's the approval of our meeting minutes. So moving forward this morning with our proposed resolution, the first we have is Jermaine Ward with our awarding of bids. Good morning, how are you?
Morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I have 6 items for you to review and present to the full board for approval. All of the bids were publicly advertised and e-business documents were distributed. Number 1, cross-arm insulator assemblies. We had 2 firms accepted the invitation and 1 bid was received for these items. It's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, Transtech of SC Inc., in the estimated amount of $226,860 over a 9-month period. There was no previous contract for these components, but after further evaluation compared to staff's independent cost estimate, staff has determined that the pricing to be fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Number 2 is on-call plumbing services. 2 firms accepted the invitation and 2 bids were received for these on-call plumbing services. It's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, McCamish Inc., in the estimated amount of $421,267.50 over a three-year period. This price represents a 21% increase over the previous contract over a period of 3 years ago. That's due to rising of fuel, rental equipment, materials, and as well as wage increases. Staff has determined that the pricing is fair and reasonable and consistent with our funds budgeted in comparison to our independent cost estimate as well. Number 3, snow removal services, park and ride lots. One firm accepted the invitation and one bid was received for the snow removal services. It's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, Pittsburgh Lawn Care, who's our current incumbent on this contract services, for an estimated amount of $192,000 over a 2-year period. The price represents a 47% increase over the previous contract price. Staff has determined that the pricing for these services was considered fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Number 4, diesel engine oil. 6 firms accepted the invitation and 5 bids were received for diesel engine oil. It's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, PPC Lubricants, in the estimated amount of $475,500 over a 1-year period. This price represents a 31% increase over the previous contract terms from 1 year ago. In comparison to staff's independent cost estimate, we still determine that the price is fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Number 5, on-call tree cutting services. 3 firms accepted the invitation and 3 bids were received. The low bidder, Poor Hut Tree Experts, they disqualified themselves by inserting their own price list, and it wasn't legally or technically compliant with staff's specification. Therefore, they were not eligible for award. It's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to the next low responsible bidder, Advanced Tree Solutions LLC, and the estimated amount of $313,550 over a 3-year period. Although there was no previous purchase of these services, staff did determine that the price is fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Number 6, maintenance, inspection, testing, and certification of fire protection systems. 2 firms accepted the invitation and 2 bids were received. It's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, Preferred Fire Protection, in the estimated amount of $182,588 over a 2-year period. The price represents a 10% increase over the previous contract 2 years ago. Staff has determined that the price was fair and reasonable and consistent with the funds budgeted. Again, the increase represents inflation rates, wage increases and fuel increases as well. So if there's no additional questions, I recommend that all items be presented to the full board for board.
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Don't go anywhere yet. Do we have any questions from our committee members?
No, not at this time. Thank you.
Questions from other board members? Hearing none, thank you very much for your comprehensive report and the explanations. And yes, it is a little breathtaking to see all of the increases in prices, but that's sort of the world we're living in right now. But thank you for your thorough explanations of those. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Could I, having no questions, could I have a motion to move this forward to the full board?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to full board.
Thank you.
Item B. Thank you. Thanks, Ms. Ward. Item B, authorization to enter into an agreement to provide drug and alcohol compliance program services. Ms. Inez Colon. Good morning. How are you, Ms. Colon?
Madam Chair, board members, and all in attendance. As stated a few minutes ago, I'm seeking approval on the authorization to enter into an agreement to provide drug and alcohol compliance program services. These services would include, but are not limited to, mobile collection services, mobile collection facilities, medical review officers, substance abuse professional, as an example. Request for proposal number 2204 was publicly advertised and an informational meeting was held on August 17th of 2022. Two proposals were received on August 31st. And of the two submissions, the proposal submitted by commercial consultants was deemed as the highest rated proposal for performance of those services. The agreement would have a total not to exceed amount of $1,331,001.68. And it will be for a 3-year term with the option to extend the term for 2 additional years at the sole discretion of PRT. Madam Chair, I respectfully request that you approve this authorization and advance it to the full board. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Colon. Do we have any questions from our committee members?
No, thank you.
Questions from other board members? Hearing none, could I have a motion? I'm sorry.
No, that's it.
So moved.
Could I have a motion to move?
So moved.
Thank you. Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. We have a lot of ayes, right?
Yes.
Any
I can hear
opposed?
you.
All right, motion carries. Very good. Thank you. And
Thank you.
continuing with item C, Ms. Colon, authorization to enter an agreement to provide compensation for the market study services.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And basically, this service would include to review our current job classifications and salary structure for non-represented or non-union jobs to identify whether or not there are any outstanding issues that we need to address from the prior 2019 compensation market study, which I have to admit was the first time in the history of the authority that we've ever done it. And also to maintain that PRT is competitive with this marketplace. So toward that end, we released RFP 2202, which was publicly advertised, and an informational meeting was held on August the 9th. Proposals were received. We received 3 of them, of which Siegel Company, Eastern States Incorporated, was determined to be the highest rated proposal for said services. The total not to exceed amount for this agreement would be $270,000 for a 3-year period with the option to extend the term for an additional 2 years at the sole discretion of PRT. Madam Chair, I respectfully request that this resolution be advanced to the full board.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. McGorsky? Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you very
Questions
much.
from other board members? Hearing none, could I have a motion to move this forward to the full board?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thanks, Ms.
Thank-
Colon. Moving on to item D on our agenda, authorization to award construction contracts for the South Hills Village Maintenance Building paint booth upgrades with Mr. Greg O'Hare. Good morning, Mr. O'Hare.
This resolution seeks authorization to award construction contracts SHB 2206 G, H, P, and E for Southwood Village Maintenance Building paint booth upgrades. The scope of work consists of removal of existing paint booths and construction of new paint booths and paint mixing room, construction of body shop area with work platforms in place, refurbishment of the existing blowdown booth, and installation of new HVAC, electrical.
2 minutes, no crying.
Installation of new HVAC, electrical, and plumbing equipment. The project duration is 12 months from notice to proceed. The low responsive bidders are General Construction, Mercedes Construction Company, with a bid of $4,455,555. Mechanical Construction, Ceramic Sheet Metal Incorporated, with a bid of $910,000. Plumbing Construction, Wheels Mechanical Contracting and Supplier Incorporated, with a bid of $293,500. And Electrical Construction, Merit Electrical Group Incorporated, with a bid of $372,363. So this slide is just to illustrate, show a few pictures for illustration purposes. On the right-hand side shows the location of South Hills Village Rail Center Maintenance Building, which is outlined in the red box in the center of PRT's rail yard, which is located behind South Hills Village in the South Hills. The center picture is a picture of the interior of the blowdown booth, which will get refurbished. In the upper left-hand picture, inserted in the upper left, highlighted with the yellow box, is a picture of the outside of one of the booths. And it's just to illustrate the amount of electrical, plumbing, and HVAC equipment that's attached and part of this project. With that, pending any questions, respectfully request the committee move the resolution to the full board for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. O'Hare. Thank you for the photos. And sorry you heard no crying. We had a crying child here. Okay, so yeah, no, thank you for the photos. Those are most helpful. Any questions from committee members?
Not at this time, but I'm happy to see our junior board member.
I don't know that you're happy to see anyone, but thank you. Questions from other board members? Hearing none, could I have a motion to move this forward to the full board next week?
So moved.
Second, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. O'Hare. Moving forward to PennDOT Transit Safety Review Program. So this is our annual presentation. So Elizabeth Bonini from PennDOT and April Dorchak from Transportation Resource Association. Thank you and good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Madam Committee Chairwoman. Mike Secretary here. Just briefly before Beth and April begin their presentation, I just wanted to thank them for joining us this morning, and also note that we have our Chief Safety Officer, Bert Jennings, and our Chief of Police, Matt Porter, in the audience this morning. If there are any questions for our key day-to-day safety oversight coordination here internally following the presentation. And otherwise, I'll turn it over to Beth to get started. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sutter.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board committee. We appreciate you taking time out of your agenda for us to do this annual presentation on the State Safety Oversight Program. If you have any questions, please let us know as we go through this presentation. Because in the past, we offered more of an overview of what is state safety oversight. And today, we are really just getting into exactly what our initiatives were and what we accomplished this year and where we see ourselves going next year. But if you do have any specific questions of the state safety oversight program, again, you could ask those questions or we could talk to you separately. We just didn't want to be too repetitive from what we've done in prior years. I was going to put something in the chat, but the chat is closed. If you're interested, you could go to PennDOT's website under Doing Business, Transit, State Safety Oversight, and we have our own web page. So you can look through the web page to get more information if you don't want to set up a whole separate meeting with us to get more information. And as Mike said, thank you very much for everything that he's done and Catherine has done to support our program as well. We have continue to have a lot of collaborative working relationships with your Chief Safety Officer, Bert Jennings, and your Chief of Police, Chief Porter. So we thank you and thank them for all of the support and cooperation that we've received over the years, and really want you and the rest of the board to know that. If we could go on to the next slide, that'd be great. So here's our agenda. We're going to go through, again, like I said, some of our efforts. The PTASP, if you don't know what that is, I'm sure you do. It's a public transit agency safety plan, where we see things are, and safety management system implementation. We'll talk to you about the capital projects that we've been involved in with PRT, and our involvement, which really specifically is reviewing and concurring with the safety certifications that have been taking place, triennial audits, um, different events that we have had, and again, our initiatives and things that we're tracking. So if we could go on to the next slide. So something that is really new for us in 2022, we decided that we wanted to develop a strategic plan for our state safety oversight program. We know PennDOT has a larger strategic plan, but we wanted to really create something very specific for state safety oversight, really to make sure that our what we were doing in our program not only aligns with all of the federal mandates and requirements, but where we could better align and make sure we're aligning to the larger strategic plan of PennDOT. So we have a strategic plan developed, and we review it on a monthly basis to see where we're hitting our goals and our objectives. So something that I wanted to share with all of you, that we have created that. We were audited, and I think I gave this update last year. We had an FTA triennial audit last year. We got the results at the beginning of this year of 2022, and we've developing a response to any corrective actions that the FTA provided to PennDOT on our state safety oversight program. And one of the open findings had to do with the transit agencies that we oversee did not meet all of the requirements in the 673 requirements in their public transit agency safety plan. So we've been working with PRT on their agency safety plan to make sure all of those requirements were addressed. And we're hoping that we will have that updated agency safety plan for our, we do a review and concurrence before it goes to executive staff and the safety committee and the board of directors, and then it will come to us for final review and final approval. So, but we do a pre-approval. So we're hoping to have that pre-approval done before the end of the calendar year, and hopefully it will go for board approval early in the first quarter of next year. We are required by federal legislation to do an annual report. That annual report is also sent to the governor. That was sent in June, and something that it's the first time that has happened for our program, but we received a phone call from the governor and specific questions on our annual report from the governor, which a handwritten comments on. So when he really read our report that we provided and asked amazing questions. Some of the things that we talked about were we have 2 open state safety oversight positions underneath me, similar to what was presented earlier to the committee about reviewing classifications and reviewing salaries to make sure that they're in line with the industry. Those are some of the conversations that we've been having too for safety in particular. So if you know of anyone, we actually have 2 open vacancies right now. They're posted, and hopefully we'll get those 2 positions filled very soon. We also present to the governor audit findings, what's been happening with, and he was really interested in that, accident prevention. What are we doing, and what are the agencies doing to help prevent future accidents, and looking at specific hazard ratings on open corrective action plans. So Just it is a federal requirement, but it is something that in Pennsylvania we put a lot of time and energy into making sure we provide valuable reports, and it was and those reports are being reviewed and really taken into consideration when we're looking at resources needed to support the program. In addition, we updated, or we do this every year, and we do this in collaboration with the rail transit agencies that we oversee. So we did work with Burr and Chief Porter to update our procedures and standards. So those were published in July of 2022, as they are traditionally updated every year. And the real focus of the updates that we did in July were making sure that all of the requirements from the BIL were included in our procedures and standards. So those requirements, and we'll talk about kind of some of the BIL requirements later on in the presentation. As you know, we've been working with you on your automatic trip stop improvement project. We've reviewed safety certification documents, such as your safety program plan, preliminary hazard analysis, your hazard logs, and other documentation. We looked at your wayside commissioning test reports. We've been meeting with your project team, and we've attended a demo of the new system, and just really appreciate Marlon and the support of the whole team, and the transparency that they've been providing to state safety oversight on what's been happening and how they're reviewing and progressing in a safe way through that ATS project. The Palm Garden Bridge, we visited the construction site there. We held an update meeting with system safety and engineering. Something that's relatively new for us, and I know that some other programs in the country have this, we acquired a LiDAR gun. So we've created standard procedures on how to use that LiDAR gun. We've provided training, and we now perform LiDAR ops reviews on all of the systems that we oversee. So we're really focusing on like risk-based use of the LiDAR gun. So looking at grade crossings and other areas of interest. And we also have an RTSRP, or Rail Transit Safety Review Program, a 101 training course that we have. And we've helped to provide some training courses just about who we are, what we do to PRT and to staff at PRT, just so there's an awareness of who we are and what we do. Next slide, please. Okay, so safety management system, just a quick update. I'm sure you've been hearing about this a lot, and what we know is happening for implementation at PRT. So the safety management policy, as far as implementation goes, there's been some updates to job descriptions, and including safety in performance reviews. So as far as what you're specifically doing as far as implementing on the policy side, that's some of the information we've received. For safety risk management, you now have the FIX software, and you're looking at accident trends at the OSSRC meetings. For safety assurance, you're looking and you're continuing your internal audits and auditing to your PTASP. And safety promotion, there's a safety training that's a requirement from the BIL for maintenance employees. And, you know, again, to speak to our collaborative efforts, not only did PRT have this training, but they sent it to us in advance too, to say this is what we plan on giving to our maintenance employees, and gave us the opportunity to provide some review and comments, which is really appreciated. And so upcoming things that we know about for your SMS implementation, now that the FIX system is coming on board, looking at improved preventative maintenance data and looking at trend analysis from that data. And I believe that it's not happening right now, but it's something coming up in the future, looking at the safety dashboard that's being developed. So PTASP update. I talked a little bit about FTA's findings on our program, which was really their deeper dive into the RTAs that we oversee. And I believe the next time, again, the board sees the PTASP for PRT, it will address in that updated version some of the findings that came out of that FTA audit. The bipartisan infrastructure law requirements that have to be incorporated in that ASP. There's now a safety committee that must review and approve that PTASP, and the first date that must be done by is by the end of this calendar year. So 12/31/22, the safety committee has to review and approve the PTASP for PRT. And all of the correspondence that we've had with Bert and his team, I believe that PRT is in line with having that officially done. So I feel like that's in a really good place right now. There's also the safety committee must propose risk-based mitigations, identify mitigations that are not working, and looking for continuous improvement opportunities. So those are things that are really specific in the BIL that that PRT is now incorporating into their safety committee on a formalized basis. There also has to be a set aside that PRT makes for at least 0.75% of their 5307 funds for risk reduction programs. So there's that set aside that now is a mandatory set aside and for safety. We already talked about how maintenance personnel must be included in safety training, de-escalation training must be provided, and the way that agencies must identify how they're going to minimize exposure to infectious diseases. We're working closely with PRT on their safety risk management process, and that's their process for identifying, tracking, and reporting hazards, and really looking at how they are not just identifying the hazards, but they are looking at the consequences of those hazards and doing their risk rating based on those consequences. So those are conversations that we've been having and will continue to have with PRT. Let's see. I think we're ready for the next slide. And I'm going to turn this over to April. And again, if folks have questions, feel free to ask along the way, or we could wait till the end either way. Go ahead, April.
Thanks, Beth. Hi, good morning. All right, so we talked a little bit about capital projects and safety certification already, but just as a reminder, Part 673 requires transit agencies to apply safety management systems to all elements of operations. And, a big part of that is the design and construction operation of major capital projects, extensions, new starts. So PRT safety and security certification program that's documented in their PTASP ensures the implementation of SMS related to the mitigation of safety and security risks associated with major capital projects. So as Beth mentioned, throughout this year, the RTSRP continued to work with PRT during the ATS upgrade project, and we've been monitoring the safety certification for the project along the way. We've reviewed all the relevant documentation. We participated in the safety and security certification meetings that the project team holds, and we also got the opportunity to attend some of the system integration testing. So as the project continues, we'll continue to work with PRT, and then after PRT certifies the project, the RTSRP will formally approve that prior to revenue service. Now you can move on to the next slide. In terms of triennial audits, so 2022 began a new triennial cycle, and it changed a little from previous years. We're no longer auditing the 23 elements that were in the old system safety program plan. It's a relatively similar structure, but it's more SMS focused and it covers the entire PTAS. The current status of the audit program right now, we've completed 1 security audit and 3 PTASP audits this year, and we have 2 more upcoming next month. And we're looking at, through the remainder of the cycle, ending in 2024, we're looking at about 2 audits per quarter planned. Next slide. This slide here shows the annual PRT events from 2019 through the end of October 2022. So as you can see, there were 27 events occurring at PRT this year. Right now, we just have 4 open investigations that we're waiting on final reports from PRT. Those include the LRV fire, the West Library grade crossing collision, the derailment at Dormont Station, and a sleet cutter entanglement at Monroe. And then we also, while we're reviewing the event at Monroe, we did identify a potential safety hazard at that location, and PRT is currently looking into the hazard. And finally, the current and upcoming initiatives for, the remainder of this year, next year. We mentioned the PTASP and SMS implementation already. We're also going to continue to monitor the ATS project for safety certification and continue to look at PRT's capital project program on a regular basis, just to determine if safety certification would be required for any other initiatives. We are looking at roadway worker protection across all of our agencies that we oversee. This year, 4 members of the RTSRP attended PRT's RWP training and provided feedback. A lot of the feedback was incorporated into PRT's training, and we're going to continue, as I mentioned, to review all the agency's RWP programs versus our RTSRP standards and new requirements that may come forth from the FTA. A couple other items we're going to be focusing on. A couple safety advisories just came through last month. Safety advisory 22-1 was regarding railcar passenger door inspection and function testing. And in this advisory, FTA recommended that SSOAs direct transit agencies to evaluate the sufficiency of their preventative maintenance procedures for railcar passenger doors. And then safety advisory 22-2 was regarding signal system safety and train control, in which the FTA recommended that oversight agencies direct the transit agencies to look at their signal system safety and train control as part of their safety risk management process. So we've looked into those, and we're getting memos out to the agencies of the requirements later this week. And then finally, there was a special directive that came by from the FTA as well last month, and that's Special Directive 22-44. It's a risk-based inspection program. So we have been working on this prior to this directive coming out, but we're going to continue to develop a risk-based inspection program that's in line with the directive. The program is going to require SSOAs to perform both announced and unannounced inspections at covered transit agencies. It requires the agencies to share data with the SSOAs, and it needs to be implemented 2 years after the special directive was published. So that will be October 21st, 2024.
And I just want to say something about that special directive. That normally a special directive is issued by the federal government if there is something going on with the RTA or the SSO that's really a safety concern. Because a special directive initiative was specifically outlined as the avenue FTA was to take regarding evaluating the risk-based inspection program for the different states, that's the avenue that the FTA had to take. So this special directive is not just a special directive for Pennsylvania, but every single state that has a state safety oversight was given a special directive. So I just want to be very clear about that. It wasn't something that Pennsylvania is doing wrong. It's the avenue that Congress and the legislation dictated for the FTA to use to determine that each state had a risk-based inspection program that's in line with the federal requirements. So sorry to interrupt you, April, but I really need to be clear about that. And we have already started working on it just to make sure that everything that we have in place in Pennsylvania, any legislation, our procedures and standards are in line. And we have, again, 2 years to be in compliance. And not just to be in compliance, but to also have a fully implemented RBI program, which is a lot to do in 2 years. So, and next slide. So this is our contact information. Again, if anyone is interested in learning more about state safety oversight, you could reach out to us directly, or you could go to PennDOT's website. If you know of anyone interested in a safety career, please send them my way as soon as possible, because we are looking for someone that would be located in Pittsburgh or the Pittsburgh area, someone in Philadelphia, or I would take someone in the Harrisburg area. But I have to do my shameless plug. Are there any questions for us?
Very good. Thank you, ladies. Questions from
Thank
the
you.
committee for either April or Elizabeth?
No, but thank you for the report.
Questions from board members? Hearing none, I'm going to say thank you very much for the comprehensive report. Elizabeth, just a clarification for my safety and sanity over here. When
Sure.
you had said that we are in line, does that mean on time to be able to get everything to you with that December 31st deadline this year?
Yes, as far as I know, that's probably more of a question for Bert. But yes, as far as I know,
Okay.
that everything is, you've been working, the safety office has been working really closely with their safety committee. And it's something that is not new to PRT, which is amazing. There are other transit agencies that are just trying to form a safety committee. You guys have had this in place. It's now getting their signature and approval on the ASP, the agency safety plan. So as far as I know, you guys are in a very good position.
Thank you. I'm proud of that fact. And I see, is that Bert coming up to the podium?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair,
Thanks,
and
Mr.
all in audience and board members. We are on target with our executive level safety committee. We have 4 Port Authority management on the committee, as well as 4 ATU members on the committee. And due to our past long good relationship with our union on that committee, we are on target to have a full approval by the committee. And then we expect to bring it to the Performance Oversight Committee and the board in January for the final approval. So everything is good to go. Thank you.
Very good. I thank you all for that report. April and Elizabeth, thank you. Job well done. Thank you so much. And Bert, and for you and Chief working on it. And I know Mike Setter is also involved to make sure that we're staying on time with timelines. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
We have a good team, and thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We appreciate your time.
I appreciate your reports. Thank you, ladies. That's wonderful. Having no other items on our agenda this morning, that concludes. Can I have a motion, Lori, to adjourn performance oversight?
So moved.
I'm going to second that. And then we are moving on to our next meeting of the morning, which would be our technology meeting with our Vice Chair, Jen Liptak. So thank you, everyone. Jen?
Thank you, everyone, and good morning. First, what we'll do is we'll just do a committee member roll call. I have members of the committee state if you're on the line, please.
Yes, this is Lori Mizgorski.
That's me and you, Lori. Okay, can every other person on the board identify for the record that you're on the line?
Jeff Letwin.
Michelle Smianik.
Okay, moving forward, the first item of business is the approval of the minutes from the September 15th Technology Committee meeting. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
And I will second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, we have one item on the agenda. It's a resolution authorizing us to enter an agreement with Hitachi Rail, STA USA, for a Silver Line hybrid automatic trip stop system. I believe Eric, the director of the capital program, is going to present. Eric?
I thought we were going to do the awarding of the bids first.
You know what, I'm sorry, I guess I have the wrong agenda, I apologize. Go ahead, do the awarding of the bids first. I'm sorry, I pulled up the wrong one.
That's okay. All right, good morning, Madam Chair. I have one item, for consideration. This is for Cisco Wi-Fi and switching equipment. Seven firms accepted the invitation and 7 bids were received, for these services. It's our recommendation that a contract be awarded to the low responsible bidder, Presidio Networked Solutions LLC, in the estimated amount of $179,902.61. There's been no recent purchases of these items, but staff has determined that the price be fair and reasonable in comparison to their independent cost estimate, which was 3% lower than the ICE document. So staff has determined that the price be fair and reasonable and consistent with funds budgeted.
Thank you, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, in my emails, the agendas got stacked, so I apologize. No, that happens, they combine together. So if there's any questions on the awarding of the bids, can we have them now by board members or committee members? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Now second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries. Laura, I'd like to go back and do an approval of the minutes from October 20th, okay? So I'm going to ask for another approval, if you can give me a motion on that, because I believe I said September. So I'm going to ask for an approval of the minutes from October 20th, 2022 from Technology Committee. May I have a motion?
So moved.
And I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, now we can move on to the authorization to extend and amend the agreement for the, do we have more bids, by the way? No?
That was it.
Okay, then that was it. So then we're gonna go on to Jim Ritchie with the authorization to extend and amend the agreement for Enghouse Transportation LLC. Go ahead, Jim.
Very good. Good morning. This agreement would extend and amend the agreement with Enghouse Transportation for our voice interactive response system. This is often just referred to as our IVR system. If you're not familiar with it, it's the system that customers engage when they call 412-442-2000, and it is the automated system that customers can work through and get information such as their Connect card balance information. They might be looking for next trip or schedule information. It can help you through its automated aspects of the system, or you can request to speak to a live customer service representative during business hours. It is a very useful tool and has taken on a huge amount of the calls that come into PRT each year. It's available 24/7, 365 days a year. 2022 so far, it's processed nearly 485,000 calls. About a third of those calls are handled in the automated fashion, and we still have about 2/3 of our callers requesting to speak with somebody live because they want some additional assistance and they want a human being to help them. And on the next slide, basically this agreement was approved by the board 5 years ago in December 2017. It included 3 option years. We're now reaching the end of that first 5-year term, which would expire in December of 2022. And so we're seeking to extend and amend the resolution or the agreement so that we can extend this for another year into December of 2023 and increase the total not to exceed amount by $115,988. And unless there's any questions, so asking the committee to advance this to the full board for consideration.
Okay, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from committee members or board members? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
And I'll second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
I believe that concludes our business for today for the Technology Committee meeting as well as all committee meetings of the Board of Pittsburgh Regional Transit. On behalf of the board members, I'd like to thank everyone for their participation, staff and audience, and we adjourn for the day. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.